mouvement, il était sur la réforme des retraites, évidemment, mais en fait, c'était un mouvement bien plus large et dans ce sens-là, un mouvement politique de remobilisation du monde du travail.
So what he's saying is that basically, let me get to what's essential. This movement started as a movement against pension reform, but it became a movement that's very political, and it's about the situation of the whole world of work, meaning the situation of the working class.
Pour mettre en avant quelques éléments pour expliquer ça, évidemment, c'est une grève qui s'inscrivait directement dans la continuité du mouvement qu'on a connu, qu'on a appelé les Gilets jaunes en France.
So it was a continuation of the movement called the Yellow Vests in France.
Et qui, lui, a été un mouvement qui a remobilisé plein de secteurs du monde du travail, qu'on a retrouvé de nouveau pour la plupart d'entre eux dans les mobilisations et les manifestations sur la séquence depuis le 5 décembre. Et donc, un espèce d'accumulation de force qui se fait en fait depuis plus d'un an et demi maintenant.
So it's part, you have to see it as part, these people who were involved in the Yellow Vests movement also participated in the strike movement. So really it's a movement of a year and a half of the world of work.
Et c'était aussi un mouvement qui ne s'est pas contenté de rejeter la réforme des retraites, mais aussi de vouloir en finir avec Macron, avec son gouvernement et avec toute sa politique. Et c'était vraiment un sentiment qui s'exprimait dans toutes les manifestations, dans tout ce que les grévistes eux-mêmes ont pu exprimer contre Macron et son monde. C'était ça le mot d'ordre de la mobilisation.
So the slogan of the movement is against Macron, the president, and his whole world. It's not just against pension reform, but really against the whole politics that he represents.
Et quelque part, c'était la conscience, en tout cas la possibilité de l'émergence d'une conscience qui était que le meilleur opposant justement à Macron et à sa politique, c'était pas ni Le Pen, donc, qui est une politicienne d'extrême droite, ni même ceux de la gauche réformiste comme Jean-Luc Mélenchon, mais c'était la mobilisation des travailleurs, les travailleurs en lutte, qui allaient pouvoir s'opposer à Macron et sa politique et faire changer les choses. Bon.
And what's clear to people as they make this fight is that the way to fight back against Macron and his whole world, the world of the bankers and so forth, isn't Le Pen, which, does everyone know what? Okay, so Le Pen is the extreme right. Marine Le Pen is the head of a group called National Regathering, and it's really the extreme right in France, that it's neither Le Pen nor Mélenchon, who's like, maybe we could say the Bernie of France at this point. You know, he's nationalist, but he calls himself a socialist and all that. And so it's neither side, but really through people's struggles in the streets that they're going to be able to make this battle against Macron and his banker cronies.
Et la manière dont le monde du travail a montré aussi sa force dans cette mobilisation, c'est en affirmant le caractère non corporatiste de la mobilisation de manière extrêmement, extrêmement marquée.
So what's really particular about the way that they've fought is that they are clear that their fight is a fight that they call not corporative, which means not stuck with one professional group fighting for its needs, the railroad workers here, the teachers there, but that really it's everyone together in the same fight.
Et ça, c'est vraiment quelque chose qui a marqué la grève, et j'insiste là-dessus. Nous, à la SNCF, on a connu, avant cette grève de 2019, on avait connu une grève en 2018 qui était pour la défense du statut des cheminots. Et l'état d'esprit qu'il y a eu dans ces deux grèves parmi les grévistes était vraiment très différent. En 2018, c'était une grève pour défendre, disons, les acquis dans notre profession. En 2019, c'était vraiment une grève pour tous les travailleurs, un combat commun à tous. Et ça, c'est quelque chose qui… c'était vraiment l'état d'esprit de l'immense majorité des grévistes et c'est très important pour nous.
So what he really wants to insist upon, which is a real change in the working class, is that in 2018, there was a big fight of the railway workers against it was a fight to defend certain rights that they had earned in their previous struggles as railroad workers. It was really a defensive fight of the railway workers. But in this fight in 2019, it's a real change in consciousness. It's clearly a fight where people understand that they're defending the rights of all workers. So it's, for him, he really wants to emphasize that in the minds of the people, in the minds of the railroad workers that are fighting, that fought in 2019 and in 2020, it's a shift in consciousness. D'accord.
Et cette idée que ce mouvement était non corporatiste, c'était donc l'état d'esprit que je viens de décrire, mais aussi une réalité concrète dans la mobilisation. En fait, de manière extrêmement simple, il y a des milliers de travailleurs qui se sont mélangés concrètement, les uns et les autres participant aux mêmes manifestations, les uns et les autres se rencontrant sur leur lieu de travail pendant la grève. Et le fait de se mélanger, de tisser ces liens, ça a aussi fait tomber beaucoup de barrières, quoi.
So the way that this demonstrated this reality was that thousands of workers were actually woven together in the struggle. So because teachers went to bus depots, because railroad workers marched next to electricians, because everyone was actually physically participating in the same struggle together, a lot of the corporatist, ideas just kind of melted away and people saw what their connections were in this fight.
Dans ma ville, par exemple, à Lille, pour donner un exemple concret, ce qui a été le moment le plus important de cette mobilisation commune, ça a été quand on a fait un cortège commun entre les cheminots dans une manifestation, donc les cheminots qui étaient en grève, et des ouvriers de l'usine Cargill, qui était une usine de l'agroalimentaire, qui était en lutte au même moment, mais contre les licenciements. Et on a réussi à participer aux assemblées générales de grévistes des uns et des autres, à tisser des liens, à discuter. Et ça a débouché sur un cortège commun avec des banderoles communes ensemble, bras dessus, bras dessous, en train de manifester pour exprimer en fait que même si quelque part les revendications étaient les uns sur les retraites, les autres sur les licenciements, en fait, on menait un combat commun à tous les travailleurs, en fait.
D'accord. So one moment in Lille that really expressed this new solidarity and this shift in consciousness is that on the one hand, you had the rail workers that were fighting against the pension reform. And at the same time, Cargill workers, who we hear they're advertising all the time around here, right? They were fighting against layoffs in their workplace. And so what you had is rail workers participating in general assemblies of Cargill workers and Cargill workers coming to general assemblies of rail workers. And when they marched together in the demonstrations, they had banners both against the pension reform and against the layoffs, but they marched together and they locked arms in the marches, Cargill workers and railroad workers. And this is really, discussing together in their general assemblies how to make the fight together is really a huge transformation.
Et ça peut paraître des choses qui sont anecdotiques, et dans une certaine mesure, peut-être qu'elles le sont, mais c'est vrai que les manifestations qu'on a connues, ou les manifestations classiques, disons, c'est quand même, qu'on connaît en France, c'est chacun derrière son syndicat, chacun derrière sa propre banderole. Et là, le fait de se mélanger, disons, à ce point-là, c'est quelque chose d'un peu nouveau, disons, en tout cas, qui est important pour l'avenir, justement, pour essayer de continuer à ce que cette conscience de classe, en fait, elle puisse s'exprimer. Bon.
So it may seem not a big deal, it may seem relatively normal, but you have to understand that in France, traditionally, of course, they have a lot of demonstrations, they go, there have been strikes, but it's always everybody lined up behind the banner or the balloon of their union with their workforce, their union, everybody completely separate. And this business of people walking arm in arm from separate workplaces, from separate industries, is really represents a change, maybe a small change, but an important change in the development of class consciousness.
Voilà, la deuxième chose que je voulais prendre le temps d'expliquer, c'est la manière dont on s'est organisé dans cette grève sur l'île, mais aussi dans un certain nombre d'autres coins, puisqu'en fait, ce qui a marqué la grève des cheminots cette année par rapport aux précédentes, c'est un peu le retour sur le devant de la scène de ce qu'on appelle les comités de grève.
So what he wants to explain now is how they organize their strike and what's different about this strike from past strikes. And what he wants to underline is that in this strike, you have the return of what we call strike committees.
Ces comités de grève, ils ont existé, il y en a eu une dizaine à peu près à la SNCF, et il y en a eu aussi qui ont existé à la RATP, donc le métro parisien. Ils ont existé comme une forme d'organisation des grévistes au niveau local, et où là où ils sont mis en place, l'idée était d'organiser démocratiquement la grève et de permettre que ce soit les grévistes qui décident de la conduite du mouvement.
So there were about 10 railroad workers strike committees organized locally and about another 10 in among the metro workers. And he says the idea of the strike committee is to organize the strike democratically.
Par exemple, à Lille, donc, la grève a commencé le 5 décembre, comme partout ailleurs. Notre comité de grève, il a été élu par l'Assemblée générale des grévistes dès l'Assemblée du 6 décembre, donc le lendemain du début de la grève. Pour
Wow.
donner quelques éléments un peu concrets pour essayer de se figurer qu'est-ce que ça veut dire un comité de grève dans les faits, c'était un comité qui regroupait 19 collègues de l'ensemble des syndicats de l'entreprise, des non-syndiqués aussi, des hommes et des femmes qui étaient de plusieurs services différents, certains qui faisaient là leur première grève, d'autres qui étaient plus expérimentés. Donc quelque chose qui était très représentatif quelque part de la plupart des grévistes présents.
D'accord. So in Lille, for example, the strike began on December 5th, like all over France. And it was on December 6th that in the General Assembly of Strikers, they elected their strike committee the next day. And the strike committee was made up of men and women, people from all the different unions that were existing in the workplace, as well as non-union workers. People from different, he calls them services, so the different sections, whatever your work is in the railroad. So it was really a representative body that was elected the very next day in the General Assembly.
Et donc, ce comité de grève, en fait, il s'est réuni tous les jours durant plus de 50 jours de grève pour discuter d'absolument tout, à la fois de l'organisation concrète de la grève, donc les piquets de grève, les tracts, les tournées de mobilisation pour s'adresser aux collègues, mais aussi les liens qu'on pouvait tisser avec les autres travailleurs en lutte, comme les Cargill dont j'ai parlé juste avant, mais aussi pour discuter de l'ensemble des problèmes de la grève, comment réagir face au gouvernement, face aux différentes annonces qui étaient faites. C'était vraiment un espèce de petit état-major local qui permettait aux grévistes de se saisir, de se poser tous les problèmes et de proposer des solutions concrètes aux grévistes lors des assemblées générales.
Okay, so I didn't say how many there were. There were 19 people on this strike committee, and they met every single day to discuss absolutely everything that was involved in the strike. So in terms of the basic organizational questions, pickets, producing leaflets, going out, doing outreach, making links with other workers like the Cargill workers, but also the problems that were posed by the government policy. Every time the government made an announcement, how are they going to react to those announcements? It was like, what do you call it? État-major, it's the military leadership of the strike, the democratically elected military leadership of the strike. And every time the government made one or another proposal, they had to have a response for it. D'accord.
Ce qui est important avec ces comités de grève, en tout cas la manière dont nous, on a voulu les construire, c'est que c'était d'abord une question de démocratie dans la lutte. En fait, tout ce que faisait le comité de grève, il le soumettait aux discussions et aux votes de l'Assemblée générale de l'ensemble des grévistes pour permettre que ce soit l'ensemble des grévistes qui décident démocratiquement de ce qu'ils voulaient faire de leur mouvement et donc que l'ensemble des grévistes puissent se faire leur propre avis sur la conduite du mouvement, sur la manière de faire gagner la grève en quelque sorte.
Très bien. So to give you an idea of how democracy, was alive in the strike, it's not that the group of 19 made all the decisions separately from the strikers. They would present their proposals to the General Assembly of Strikers, and then the General Assembly of Strikers would vote on the proposals that were made by the strike committee, so that all of the strikers were able to think and have a real opinion about how to win the fight.
D'accord. Ces comités de grève, c'était donc des outils pour la démocratie au sein du mouvement, mais au travers de ces comités de grève et de l'organisation indépendante des grévistes par la base, le problème qu'on voulait poser, c'était aussi celui de la direction de la grève à l'échelle locale, mais aussi à l'échelle nationale.
D'accord. So you had this rank and file organization, at the local level, but one of the problems or considerations that was really important to them was to think about how could this then lead to and develop some kind of national leadership coordination.
Ces comités de grève, donc ils ont existé dans une dizaine d'endroits, comme je l'ai dit. En fait, localement, ils ont eu vraiment leur force et dans un certain nombre de coins, à l'échelle locale, ils ont quelque part dirigé la grève. Mais évidemment, le problème, c'était un problème au niveau national. Et au niveau national, il faut quand même dire que la direction du mouvement, c'est-à-dire les perspectives qui étaient à un moment donné crédibles pour les travailleurs, les rythmes de la mobilisation, cette direction du mouvement, elle est restée quand même aux mains des directions syndicales confédérales.
D'accord. So locally, there were about 10 of these strike committees, and in some of them, we can really say that locally, they absolutely led the strike. But at the national level, the strike still remained, in terms of the credibility, the national leadership of the strike was still the big union confederation leaderships that people were listening to and looking toward for the next big day of strike. D'accord.
Et ça, en fait, ça nous a posé des problèmes parce que, comment dire, pour donner par exemple un exemple pour essayer de comprendre les problèmes qui ont pu se poser, on s'est retrouvé en fait le 17 décembre, donc au bout à peu près une dizaine de jours de grève déjà dans les pattes, après une journée de grève et de mobilisation extrêmement réussie, les directions syndicales ont appelé à une prochaine journée de mobilisation seulement le 9 janvier. Donc en fait, plus de 3 semaines après la grève, après le jour où on en était. C'est-à-dire en fait une manière de vouloir, dans les faits, faire une trêve pour les fameuses fêtes de Noël et du Nouvel An, et donc quelque part de laisser le mouvement pendant 3 semaines sans perspective de pouvoir se développer, et donc quelque part un peu dans l'attente des suites, quoi. Bon.
D'accord. So this posed a problem, this leadership at the national level posed a problem because, for example, we had a huge day of strike and mobilization demonstrations on December 17th. And then following that, the union leadership called for a strike on January 7th. So leaving in de facto creating a truce with the government over the Christmas break and having no proposal whatsoever for a period of 3 weeks, leaving the movement without a leadership.
Quand ça s'est survenu, il y a eu beaucoup de colère en fait de la part des grévistes. Beaucoup de cheminots et de salariés de la RATP n'étaient pas d'accord avec cette perspective-là, le fait d'attendre comme ça le 9 janvier. Mais à ce moment-là, le constat que nous, on fait, c'est qu'il n'y avait rien d'autre qui existait à l'échelle nationale pour proposer autre chose que ce que proposaient les syndicats à ce moment-là.
So this made people furious. Among the really solid core of workers that were fighting, they were absolutely furious at this, you know, what would you call it? Just desertion, thank you, by the union leadership. But there was no leadership in its place that could propose something else at a national level that had credibility in the working class.
Alors, est-ce qu'il aurait pu en être autrement? C'est un peu toute la question. En tout cas, c'est la question que nous, on a essayé de se poser dès le début du mouvement et même en amont du début du mouvement le 5 décembre, et de faire un certain nombre de tentatives, en tout cas pour ce qui concerne les militants de l'Étincelle et aussi avec d'autres révolutionnaires dans le pays, de faire des tentatives pour qu'émerge une coordination des grévistes à l'échelle nationale. Bon.
D'accord. So could it have been different? That's definitely the question that we asked ourselves. And we asked ourselves this question even before December 5th, when, you know, I told you that in September there had been the first strike at which December 5th was proposed. And so what he's saying is we, Etincelle, made some attempts together with other revolutionaries before December 5th to try to create a coordination. D'accord.
Donc, ces tentatives, elles ont en partie abouti, puisqu'il a existé un cadre qui s'est mis en place, un cadre qui s'est appelé Coordination RATP-SNCF à l'échelle de la région parisienne et qui regroupait au moins une fois par semaine des grévistes, des vrais grévistes de la base, de la RATP et de la SNCF, et qui, pas simplement du coup à une échelle locale, mais déjà à une échelle, disons, régionale, celle de la région parisienne, commençait à essayer de discuter de ces problèmes-là et de représenter quelque chose au-delà de simplement l'échelon local.
D'accord. So these attempts had some small success. We succeeded in creating a coordination in the Paris region, so not just the city of Paris, but in the surrounding area as well, called the RATP, which is the trains, and RATP, which is the metro and buses, and the SNCF, which is the trains, the RATP SNCF coordination. And they met once a week with rank and file workers met in this coordination once a week and tried to give a different perspective at the regional level. D'accord.
À l'échelle de la région parisienne, cette coordination, elle a été vraiment, c'était pas juste anecdotique, disons. Elle a eu un poids, voilà, pour prendre des initiatives, pour structurer les grévistes, etc. Et nous, disons, l'une des préoccupations essentielles qu'on a essayé d'impulser, mais on n'a pas réussi, c'est que cette coordination région parisienne, RATP, SNCF, tente de s'imposer à l'échelle nationale en tissant des liens avec les grévistes et les assemblées générales et les comités de grève d'ailleurs dans le pays pour essayer d'émerger comme une coordination nationale. Malheureusement, on a été un peu les seuls à proposer cette politique et on n'a pas réussi en fait à entraîner plus largement et à ce que ça se fasse véritablement.
D'accord. Quand tu dis « on était les seuls », tu veux dire Etincelle ou tu veux dire les autres de toute la coordination?
En termes de courant politique, je parlais. Donc, au niveau Etincelle.
D'accord. So, at the regional level, then, the coordination really had some weight. It was able to propose activities and really play a role. But their preoccupation, when I say their, I mean Etincelle's preoccupation, was to try to take this to the next level, to the national level, and try to connect, make links with the other general assemblies that were in different parts of the country to create a national coordination. And at that level, they weren't able to convince people to do that activity with them and to succeed to create a national coordination. D'accord.
Bon, sur, disons, voilà, la description un peu de ces éléments d'organisation de la grève, je ne vais pas forcément en dire plus. Après, on en discutera autant que vous voulez, mais je ne veux pas être trop long. Pour finir, en fait, ce mouvement, d'une certaine manière, il n'est pas terminé. Ce que je veux dire par là, c'est que la conscience qu'il a produit parmi des milliers de salariés dans le monde du travail, elle va porter ses fruits d'une manière ou d'une autre dans sans doute les combats qui nous attendent encore. Ces éléments d'organisation de la grève, les comités de grève, ces tentatives de coordination locale et nationale, en fait, d'une certaine manière, elles ont été limitées dans cette grève-là, mais comparativement aux grèves de l'année dernière ou même d'il y a quelques années, c'est déjà un cran qui est déjà bien au-dessus de ce qu'on a pu connaître ces années passées. Donc, c'est plutôt encourageant pour l'avenir en termes de possibilités que ça se généralise.
D'accord. So I'm not going to dwell too much on the details of what happened in the strike committees. We can talk about it with your questions. But to finish up, what I want to say is the movement isn't over. The class consciousness that is developed among thousands of workers that have been active in general assemblies and strike committees and have been doing outreach. This is an enormous experience that isn't about to be lost. And in comparison with years prior, it's really very different. D'accord.
Un dernier mot.
Last word.
Ce mouvement, il a produit une politisation importante, pas forcément à l'échelle de millions de personnes, mais en tout cas à l'échelle de plusieurs milliers, avec oui, une politisation en tout cas dans certaines couches du monde du travail. Nous, en fait, au niveau simplement de l'Étincelle, on est évidemment une petite organisation révolutionnaire en France, mais même à notre échelle, même en n'étant pas très gros, on le ressent avec des travailleurs dans ces secteurs-là qui, suite à la grève, se tournent vers nous et avec qui on est capable de développer des nouvelles activités, de maintenir les liens et d'essayer de préparer le mieux possible les prochains combats. Bon. Et donc, le fait que nous, on arrive à le ressentir, alors que quelque part, on n'est quand même pas si gros que ça, c'est un peu aussi le reflet que cette politisation, elle a existé à une échelle quand même importante dans le pays. Et ça, c'est sans doute le plus important et le plus encourageant pour la suite.
So just to finish up, what's most important about this moment and this situation is that what you have is a tremendous politicization, I pronounced that wrong, of thousands of workers that have been the ones that were the most involved in the struggle, who have really developed a political consciousness through this fight. And Étincelle is a small organization in France, and they are really feeling this, that there are so many more workers who have gotten close to them politically and who want to continue this fight and are looking to them, this revolutionary organization, for a perspective. So the fact that now you have thousands of workers in France, and the fact that thousands of workers in France that have this level of politics, political understanding, is a real change. And the fact that this small group, is feeling this, obviously it's much more true in the country as a whole. They're only able to sense this where they are. D'accord. Très bien. Merci. Merci beaucoup. Yeah. On va prendre des questions et tu répondras peut-être directement en anglais, on verra, si tu veux.
Ok, peut-être.
Go ahead.
Bonjour, enchanté. My name is Kevin. So just to clarify, what do you do for a living?
Tu comprends?
Oui, yes. Mais je ne saurais pas comment le traduire. En fait, je suis…
Vas-y, dis-le en français.
Aiguilleur du rail.
Un quoi du rail?
Aiguilleur. je fais l'aiguillage des trains.
L'aiguilleur des rails. How do you say that in English? No, the aiguilleur, he's a it's like they move the switch. Thank you, switch operator for the trains. All together, we can do this. Très bien, switchman.
So you work junctions.
Comment on dit jonction? Il dit tu travailles les jonctions, donc c'est là où les trains changent de rail, c'est ça?
Exactly.
Yes.
For what rail line?
Pour quelle ligne de rail? SNCF?
Oui, la
It's
SNCF.
it's nationally owned company.
Rail,
Yeah.
If you're going from city to city, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So is that CGT?
Are you in the CGT?
Yes.
Okay. And
That's the name of the union.
And you're in LO, right?
No.
LO,
Étincelle.
Étincelle.
Got it.
Right. My bad.
That's okay. No worries.
I'm trying to keep track. All right. So, how long have you been doing that for?
Depuis combien de temps?
The job.
Le travail.
My job. I've been in this job since 3 years.
3 years. Okay. So,
Yes.
is that like, would you say those workers are probably way closer to you than most of the population, or how would you put those people that do that kind of work, you know, like context of the general population? Are they way more militant, in the middle, less? How is it?
Est-ce que les travailleurs qui travaillent avec toi sont plus militants que la population générale? Comment ils sont en général? Si on veut comparer avec les travailleurs moyens. Not an easy question.
Well, that's why I asked. I don't mean, I'm curious. Never talked to a French train worker before.
I think I will try in English, but if you don't understand, you tell me. I think that it's true that in the railway sector, there is more strikes than in other sectors in France. For example, since 2010, we had something like a big national strike once every 2 years, something like that.
Okay. Oui, d'accord, continue.
Okay. So, of course, not like that in every other part of the working class in France, particularly the fact that those strikes are national and not only on a local level. So it open in a way maybe more possibilities, and but it's true. But on the other way, I wouldn't say that the people around me are more militant or more politicized than the rest of the working class. I think it's well, it's difficult to answer in only one or two words, but
that was pretty clear.
Yeah,
that was quite clear. I just want you, je veux que tu saches que on va continuer avec toi pendant 10 minutes et il faudra qu'on déconnecte pour des raisons techniques et qu'on reconnecte, et ensuite on ira voir chez Valentin. D'accord? Alors, une autre question? Go ahead. Elle s'approche.
Okay.
So my question was about the national coordination. You said that became difficult to propose to people or to convince people of it. And I'm wondering if this was a question of technical difficulties, it was just too hard, people didn't think it was necessary, or they were already so focused on the regional aspect. So if you could talk a little bit more about what stopped that.
Okay. I think there is two issues about that. The first one is at global level. In the workers involved in the strike itself. On that regard, I think that for a part of them, not all of them, but a part of them, the way the national leadership of the unions organized the strike was okay, more or less. So they didn't felt the need to overcome them, to build something by themselves. I think for some of them, the workers that were not the most involved in the mobilization, maybe they were not thinking that it was a necessity to build something else than the unions. Okay, so this is a part of the answer. But on the other end, I think that this coordination that we managed to build at a regional level, Paris and the suburb of Paris, I really think that it was a mistake that this coordination didn't try to call to build some links with the city and the General Assembly of the workers of the rest of the country. And this issue is more related to the disagreement that we had between some revolutionary militants in this coordination. Because when we proposed that this coordination tried to make some phone call or things like that to try to build this, some other militants were in disagreement, and they said no for a lot of reasons that I think are not good, but okay. And so I think we don't really know, of course, if it would have happened, what if it would have been a success or no, but it's not only, the answer is not only it was not possible because of the situation. It was also a disagreement between a discussion about the possibilities to do it or no at a certain moment. So it was not at all technical issues. It was, well, okay.
It's okay. Go ahead.
My question, I wonder if you can comment on the way, I have this general impression that in Europe, and I guess in France too, that the private bus companies have expanded, that there's more cheap bus lines that I would assume aren't unionized, but I'm wondering if you can comment upon the sort of, whether there's any solidarity or organizing going on among the new workers that have taken jobs driving those bus lines.
T'as compris?
How that fits into the bigger picture.
Je pense que j'ai compris, mais si tu peux juste me...
Oui, il lui semble qu'en Europe, en ce moment, il y a plein de lignes privées de bus, des compagnies, des boîtes privées de bus, et non seulement les bus nationaux. Et donc, dans ces nouvelles compagnies de bus, à quel point est-ce que les travailleurs sont engagés dans la lutte, étant donné qu'ils sont probablement pas syndiqués, etc.
So, in the statute of the bus companies in France are very different from a town to another. So sometimes it's more public services, sometimes it's not. So it's very difficult to answer for all of them. But the strike in the bus and subway sector, the strike was really only strong in Paris and the suburb of Paris, not anywhere else in France. For example, in Lille, my town, so in the north of the country, the subway and the buses were on strike only on the 5th of December. So only for one day and not on the ongoing strike every day. So, but about the level of the situation of the unions, it's well, they are quite unionized, but they are not in France. They are not in one town. There is only more or less one company that will operate to do the subway and the buses. There is not a competition right now, not yet, between different companies. So it remains in one company, and so the level of the unions are not so low, I think, regarding some other sectors in some private companies. Or okay, if it's understandable.
Okay. One more question, and then we're going to move to Caen and speak with Valentin. Anybody? Yeah, go ahead.
No one else. Thank you very much for this. It's wonderful to see you again. Questions on the General Assemblies. So you said they're local General Assemblies, and you said sometimes Cargill and SNCF would come together. Were the General Assemblies sort of open, and what was the participation of people who had participated in Yellow Vest movements? Would they come into the General Assemblies? And related to this, were there a change in the people who are in the strike committees? Change in leadership, or people got tired and other people came in, or did the strike committee stay the same?
About the General Assemblies, in fact, they were open, yes. And what was interesting, to say it in a short way, there was two different moments during the strike. The first one in December, when we tried to go out from the SNCF to go to see the other sectors, and in January it was more the opposite. It was the other sectors, particularly the teachers and some other private company. Well, I can't give all the details, it's too long, but who came in our General Assembly to see and to speak with rail workers. And so in a way, the General Assembly of the rail workers were some kind of gathering point of all the different strikers who wanted to speak together to build something. So it was quite nice to have all of them coming to us, particularly in January. And the yellow jacket, some of them, but it was more at an individual level when they came in the General Assembly, but they participate in the mobilization more through the demonstrations than through a kind of common structuration of the strike. So if I can say it like that. About the strike committee, how can I say that, le noyau dur,
The hardcore, the center.
the center, yes, the hardcore remain the same, but around it we discovered new people, new colleagues during the strike. Some of them that were with us at the beginning and not at the end. So it was kind of a mixture of different persons. It was quite a good thing, I think, because we managed to keep the center together and to develop and to progress during the strike with all of them. And it was also the fact that we managed to prove that what we were doing was quite right and good for the strike. And so people that maybe were hesitant at the beginning came to see what is it, I want to see it by myself and things like that. So I think, well, I think this experience for me, for to say it in one word, but it was probably the most good things that I have experimented in my whole militant life.
Okay. Well, thank you. So
In fact, that ancient form of baccalaureate. That means the ancient form of baccalaureate. It means that during the 12th grade, I think it's something like that in the US. 12th grade. I mean, the student who are 18 years old, they spend a year training for that final exam. And they have something like 10 days of different examinations at the end of June. And now it's been replacing, instead of that, you've got several tests during 2 years. And it's bullshit because we have to make tests and tests and tests, not just 1 year, but 2. And that new baccalaureate, we had a lot of questions because until the end of December, we didn't know what we were supposed to train for our kids. That means the tests they have been passed last January and February. It's just fresh now. And until December, we didn't know what we had to do to train our kids. A lot of teachers have sent emails, letters to our bosses, to the bosses on the upper level, to the upper level, and we had no answers because on the upper level they didn't know what would be that new baccalaureate. So the anger got up and up and up, and also a lot of stress for students, and both for teachers, and of something like pain at work. I don't know how to say, sufferings. People getting sick, getting off work because the doctor was saying you're on burnout, stuff like that. And all this has been necessary in a way so that some teachers decide to fight back. And the question on which I will never have any answer is I don't know if the level of fight we've had would have been the same if there were not in parallel the struggle against the pension reform. Because these two struggles against the baccalaureate and high school reform on that scale for teachers of high schools, and on the other part, the pension reform struggle, they have meltdown in a way. There has been much more participation for the strikes and the movement against pension reform in the high schools where there were colleagues organized to fight the high school reform. And in the opposite way, for instance, in my high school, the teachers were the most mobilized against the new baccalaureate. There were those who went 2 or 3 times a week at 5 o'clock in the morning at the railroad shop, where the railroad workers were grouping and organizing some actions, blocking the buses. In my city, they didn't strike the bus drivers. So sometimes there have been people, strikers from other sectors getting in front of their deposit in order to block the bus. And I was very surprised because I had invited three railroad workers at our General Assembly. In order, they convinced my colleague to go one step further in the movement. But I was very surprised that they were so enthusiastic about getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning and going with workers, rank and file workers, blocking buses, and getting back in the high school and at the pause of 10 o'clock saying, well, I've been tear gassed and it's the first time of my life and it was wonderful. And such experiences have been in a way a big contribution in getting among us real personal links and the links you need to resist to the pressure of your bosses, because in the end of January we had a lot of pressure. High school, by high school, each teacher was supposed to tell what he had done with his students in order the subjects, the topic of the exam would be chosen, and we decided to refuse to give the answer and to resist to that order from the direction. The second step of the struggle against the new baccalaureate was to refuse to watch the kids when they were passing the test. So the direction of the high schools, they had to call for other people to watch over the kids instead of us. And they've been calling pensioned people. So we put some picketing blocks in front of the high schools in order to catch those pensioned people who were trying to play the scabs. And in 2 high schools, we we faced them and we kicked them out. 2 high schools in the Caen area, which has got something like 8 or 9 high schools. The last step, it's we are marking the papers now, and for instance, I'm giving the best note to every paper I have to mark on, even if maybe I will have some trouble with my hierarchy because they will say that I did not really mark the paper. To sum up the situation, we were in a position in the end of January where we saw that something like a big national movement in the high school could happen. And in the fraction, we even thought that it could be something like a new sector going into the struggle. And it was the point in which the strike in the railroad, among the railroad workers, was going down and was not really more an ongoing strike, everyday strike. And we expected that it could be something like a new push for the movement. Of course, it was not directly against pension reform, but it would have get the country in an atmosphere of fight back, and maybe we could have expected that other sectors would have gone on strike on their own at that time. It was not really that because it has not been completely national scale movement. but we've got excuse me, I got a barking dog in the room. We had something like 220 high schools in which the exam could not really happen. We had several exams, something like 6 or 7 in each high schools, and there have been 220 high schools in which at least one of them has been cancelled, and we have something like 1,600 high schools in France, and in all other 400 high schools, like in mine, there have been some kinds of protests from or the teachers, either the students, either both of them all together, and sometimes also the parents, and so on and so on and so on. And the attitude of the government was very repressive. They send the police at the gates of the high schools. They use sometimes tear gas against the students. Sometimes also they decided to call the students from the evening before, just before 8 o'clock in the evening. You have to be there 8 o'clock in the morning, so it means in 12 hours, and you will pass all your exams in a day, and the high school will be closed for everybody who's not passing an exam, and it was closed also for the teachers themselves. And you had the police at the gate of the high school, controlling the paper, checking in the bags of the students in order to look if there were not something like cocktail molotovs and so on and so on. And it was a very, very repressive atmosphere. Not in every high school, of course, but several dozens of high schools. I don't know how much really, but a bunch of them. And it was it has been not so much shown on TV reports and so on and so on, but for every people who were parents who had connections with students, it was obvious that there was a problem in France with that Minister of Education, National Education, Jean-Michel Blanquer, which is really a bastard, and that we should kick out of the government, and as Macron says, we should send him across the streets to find a new job. But anyway, until now we didn't manage to get it that way. We have a second chance because that's the charm of that new baccalaureate. We have not only in 12th grade, but now in 11th grade, in winter and in April, May, two phases of exams. So we have another session of that baccalaureate in next April, May. And Blanquer already said that he would organize the things a bit different because it was a bit too much unorganized in a way. Maybe it will not change so much on the level of how much that new baccalaureate is jeopardizing the conditions of schooling for the kids. Because what I did not really explained is that it's organized in a different way in each high schools, which allows the universities to choose not that year, not the year after, but maybe in 3, 4, 5 years, when the system will be steady. The universities and the upper schools, they will be in a situation in which they will be able to choose the kids, not just on their results, but also on the results of their high school, because it will be a baccalaureate of that high school or of that high school. And a baccalaureate which will be harder to get in that privileged area high school and baccalaureate, which will be a bit more chewing gum baccalaureate in that poor area high school. So it's already a threat against the popular milieu youth, and it's not sure that we can kick down that reform, but I will join the conclusion of the comrade of the railroad. That is the gain of that struggle is that my colleagues, first of them, when I look at my colleagues, I would say that at least 15% of them they got something like political experiments, something like that pushes you and that tears you in upside down and so on and so on. And some of them they really understood that it's something like a class war episode, and it politicized a lot of them. And not only those who had already in their past political background were a bit I don't know to say protesters, students when they were at the university, and they have abandoned all involvement since then. But you have some of them who have that kind of background, but you have also people who do not have really any political background, who are getting very angry and politicizing at a very, very rapid rhythm. And on the other side, among the students also, we saw among high school students a lot of interesting politicization processes. That makes us think that we could recruit some more people in the next years, which is not it's one aspect of the situation. The other aspect is that I don't think that Macron will have 2 more quiet years of as a president. I think his 2 last years there will be other social clashes, I think.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we'll ask you some questions. I'll take people who haven't spoken first, so you go first.
So my question is, we heard the first speaker, and you can kind of more clearly see the impact that workers, for example, in the railroad have when they go on strike to really stop the economy.
Wait a second. Yeah. Can you hear him?
Not that much.
Why don't you come up? Yeah.
So my question was, with hearing the first speaker, I think it's a lot more clear that, workers that are working in the bus industry or the rail, when they go on strike, there's maybe a bigger logistical impact on the society. But I know for a fact that there's teachers in the room and people that are interested in becoming teachers. And I was wondering if you could speak to what political impact you feel you can have as a teacher in terms of social movements and things like that, and how you're active in your life and what impact you feel it has.
Well, the answer it's not mine in reality. It's the answer that those 3 railroad workers and the unionists that I had invited in our General Assembly. I have to say I forgot a bit, but we had General Assemblies, and we organized those General Assemblies especially because I and a few, very, very few bunch of people, I don't think we were more than 6 or 7. We organized a collective of high school teachers, and it took us a lot of efforts last year. And we, many times we thought that it was pointless and useless and so on and so on. But when the strike against the pension reform started, we were able to push the unions to call for general assemblies, and we took the control over it. and we invited in one of it. I think at the end of the first week of strike, on the 12th of December, we invited 3 railroad workers, and we had a very small assembly. We were only 40 teachers, and those 3 railroad workers, when some of the teachers said, "Oh, you block the economy because when you don't work, there are no trains and there are no goods transportations," and those guys, they answered, "You're wrong. We do not transport any goods. In France, all goods are on the trucks, and trucks, they don't strike. And you have the power because you are more than 700,000 people in France, and every worker has kids, or maybe his sister or his brother has, or maybe his grandparent of, and he goes to get the kids sometimes at the gate of the school. And when you're on strike, I can tell you that it pushes the people in a bad situation, because one day they can have a day off to get the kids when the teacher is not, the school is closed, but when the school is closed several times in a week, it's a mess.
So, go ahead. You don't have to move. I can move the mic. There we go.
I'm wondering, started to talk about it a little bit, but I'm wondering about the solidarity with what you're talking about is a lot of like pretty much concentrated in high schools, and I'm wondering what the impact is for if the teachers of elementary school, of younger kids are involved at this level, what that looks like. And the other thing that I wanted to ask about, like in the US, all of this testing has also just like skyrocketed in the last like 10, 20 years. And it's very linked to privatization and like the people that are making money from these tests and all of that stuff. And I'm wondering if there's a similar connection in France, and like who is pushing these tests, how early, like, are they also getting like the testing starting earlier, and like what that's like?
Well, about the testing policy, I'm not sure I will have a very sharp answer, because yes, it's a bit in a way the same in France. We have more and more tests from years and years, and of course it's connected to that privatization policy. But in the case of the baccalaureate reform, I think Blanquer would have put anything else but the ancient baccalaureate, because his problem is that he has to close the schools, the high schools, quite a month in order to organize it and make the teacher pass it. And he wants us to work 1 month more. That's the first point. The second point is that he would replace it with anything possible, as long as it allows competition between the high schools. That's my point of view. And on the second side of the question, you were asking about the different, the other sectors inside the education system. What we call the first degree, the younger kids, they're teachers who, the difference is there's one teacher for one class until something like the 6th grade, for the same as 6th grade in the US, I think, stuff like that. It's a first school, something like that. Yeah, they have suffered. They suffer bad conditions of work. There has been a scandal last fall because a school teacher committed suicide in the school on a Saturday. She's been discovered on Monday. There has been a big reaction because she printed a letter, a 3-page letter, inside which she explained why she was committing suicide, and she sent it to 12 or 20 different addresses, in order to avoid the affair to be I don't know to say, covered up. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. She sent it to unionists. She sent it to her bosses. She sent it to not to colleagues from different high school, different schools in the area, and it was a bit a shock especially in the teacher milieu. But the first degree teachers in the beginning of the movement in December, they were saying, okay, we will go on strike the 5th of December, but don't ask much more because we can't. And I think it's not, I don't know what to say. They could do much more than one day of strike, but they are not convinced of the force they represent. That's the connection with the question just before. The power of the strike, it's not just an economic power, it's also a political power. That means the fact that when you're on strike, you can convince somebody next to you to go on strike too the day after. And that's what teachers are not convinced of in a lot of situations on strike, to distribute leaflets, because the first actions they organized were only blocking actions. They got in front of a big goods platform, you know, a place where furnitures and foods and so on is coming with truck to a big warehouse just before getting distributed in every supermarket in the area. So they were blocking stuff like that, bus deposits, and so on. And we said, oh, you could use your the force you represent, your strike, your legitimacy, to get in front of a factory and address to the workers of that factory through a leaflet. And we the milieu of what we were calling in French the interpro, which means the regroupment of everybody from different sector. We will help you to do so. We will help you to do that. I have to say that those actions were organized very early in the morning. Most of the time, you had a few railroad workers. It was organized by them with their authority, their moral authority as an ongoing strike. But most of the people who were there were people from different sectors. And with the help of those dozens of people, sometimes we've been 100, we got in front of PSA plant in Caen, in front of Renault trucks, and also in front of the main hospital of the city, which has something like 5,000 workers inside. And we were calling the people to join the strike against the pension reform. And it's remarkable that proposal has been approved even by the people we were proposing it. It was the local bureaucracy of the unions. It was not just rank and file strikers. It's not true. We didn't talk. We were not in contact with the strike committee like in Lille. In my city, it's unions who were controlling the movement. But even those local union leaders, they had to find something to get their troops strong and still motivated, and they've been convinced to do that.
That's cool. Interesting. Right. Anyone else? Yeah.
Thank you for sharing with us what's been going on. You may have sort of touched on it, and I may have missed it, but how you're describing this reform of the standardized test that really tips the scales much more than it already has been towards the more middle-class students, wealthy students at the expense of the more working-class students. How has this dynamic played out in terms of the movement, in terms of which schools have been more active contrasted with other schools? Do you see that playing out in that way? And if so, what has that meant?
honestly, I'm not in a situation to draw any conclusions at that level. In the area around Caen, we have faced very different situation. I just can say that the two more privileged high school, they did nothing. But I think it's not just connected to the level, social level of the students. It's more connected to the fighting spirit, the lack of fighting spirit among the teacher teams in both of those high schools. But in a way, the more privileged high school are attracting also more privileged teachers. So maybe there is a relationship.
Question back to the railroad. I was wondering if you can say a little bit more about the divide between the public sector and the private sector. We've understood earlier that the public sector is presented as privileged and entitled, and the media had attempted to sort of play up that division as a way to potentially discourage the private sector from participating. But my question is more precisely if the workers in the private sector buy into that, and that's one of their main motivations for sort of more watching from the sidelines, or are there other reasons? Just if you could say a little bit more about that, please. Thanks.
Okay. Of course, it's an ideological construction, as you know. For example, in my company, in the SNCF, which is still presented as a public company, it's not the case anymore in reality. For example, me personally, I work in the SNCF, but I've got a contract of the private sector because they already have some salaries that are not contracted with the company with a public contract. So it's just an example but I think that it was a part of the explanation about the fact that in the private sector, it was not the mobilization was not at the same level at the beginning of the strike. It's true. For example, when we try to go to see with a leaflet and things like that, the car industry or things like that, there were some feedback, if I can say that, from the workers themselves, saying that, okay, but you've got so many privilege, it's not my strike and things like that. But I have to say that it was really a minority. So I don't think that it is the explanation. And to be honest with you, I'm not seeing the whole situation. I don't think that the private sector didn't participated in the mobilization because, of course, it was not at the same level as in the railroad sector or in the subway sector, because if it would have been that, it would have been a general strike like in May '68 or things like that, of course. But if we look in the details, it was in fact remobilization of the private sector at different level. In some factories, it was only an evolution in the mentality, in the discussions among the colleagues, things like that. but it was a beginning. In some other factories, it was participation to the strike, but only on the big days. But it was also quite a beginning because we saw in some factories a level of mobilization of strike on those big days that we didn't saw since many years. So it was really something, I think. And in some factories, but frankly, it was a minority. The strike was on an ongoing way. But so I think, well, it's not exactly to answer your question, but I think that it was, it can't be the only explanation. I think it's, well, it's difficult, but it's more related to the balance sheet of the mobilization in the past, the way that people are looking at the strike and things like that. I don't know if it's clear, but okay. And okay.
Thank you. One more question, and then we're going to say goodbye and good night.
Hi, thanks so much.
She's over there, by the way.
Two questions. One, Valentin, I don't think you explained why the teacher committed suicide. That's when we were cut off, and I think it's really important what the conditions were, and I believe it was in Lyon. But if you could say more about the way the teachers feel about the conditions of the students, because that was also part of it, I believe. And secondly, I'm interested for both of you. Is there any interest in the municipal elections for March 15th? Is there any discussion among the railroad workers about that? I don't know who's running in Lille. I assume the NPA is not, but I don't know if LO is. But is that something people see at all linked to the movement to vote for people in the extreme left or the left? Or is it just something like over here that people don't care about or, you know, have nothing to do with except for the people who are interested in elections?
Okay, maybe I go first and I leave you. Yeah, and I leave Lille answering the second part of the question. For the reason of the suicide, it was exhaustion. She explained in her letter that she had to do a lot of things all together, not only to teach school kids, but as she was director of the school, she had also to get in touch with the parents, to get in touch with the town hall in order to have how do you say, to repair the electric problems or the plumbery or stuff like that. And she was very involved in our job, and she was spending her life in it. And she was hit by something like the loss of the meaning of her work, the feeling that you try to do it in order so that the kids you are teaching, they can get education, and they can get in that way a way to be I don't know how to say, épanoui.
To blossom.
Yeah, blossom people. not just having a job or a good situation, but just to have a personal achievement, something like that. And the feeling that everything is getting down and down and down and down and down. And the people around me, the colleagues around me, were the more hit by the situation, are the people who are very involved in their work, and for who the working as a teacher is one of the major aspects of the sense of their lives, and stuff like that, I would say. And just a few words about the municipal elections. In my city, there will not be a NPA campaign because the committee decided not to run with unsubmitted friends, but some of our comrades they answered a bit positively to the demands that was raised by the unsubmitted friends leaders, but they did not convince the whole committee to do so. So we will not run, and Lutte Ouvrière will be there. But on my level, I don't see much of an interest among the workers. But it's maybe because I'm not in campaigning myself, so I don't talk much about that with people.
Okay, thank you.
And Lille.
And Lille?
In Lille in particular, the NPA is involved in a list with other people. We don't support it, so it's difficult. To be honest, at a national level, the NPA has decided, more or less decided, or they are not very active in this next election. In some towns, they are building a list with other people from the reformist left or things like that. So it's not very good. In some other, from us, but not only, it's NPA list. And it's presented as in a relation with the mobilization and the politicization that we just had. So we will see. I really don't know if we will see a kind of result from the mobilization in those elections, but it's true that many people are thinking about it in a way. For example, I've got many colleagues who want Macron to be defeated in the next elections, in maybe the municipal elections or the next one. They want him to be defeated by the vote of the citizen. And in a way, it's good, but it's also for the best and for the worst, because it's the best opponent in the elections to Macron. He can be the far right, can be things like that. So it's difficult to see. At another level, at this municipal election, we see in some towns some yellow jackets who build some kind of citizen list to run for to change the town, things like that. So there is this politicization in a way. So people want to be involved in something, but sometimes for the best, sometimes for the worst. But it's kind of a contradiction, but it's normal. So this is the kind of discussion of feeling that we can see around us. The problem is, of course, the fact that at a national level, at this election, or I don't know, maybe the next, the NPA is not in a good situation. There is a list of Lutte Ouvrière who will be present in most of the big towns in the country. So we will see if what will be the campaign that they will achieve to do regarding to the situation, the mobilization. But well, wait and see.
All right.
Just a few words, because Philippe Poutou is presenting in Bordeaux, and he's presenting himself with a lot of people from unsubmitted France, and the polls gave him something like 11% of the votes. Yeah. So it's just polls, it's not the rest. But maybe that election will have something like a national importance at the evening of the first round of the elections. And for the detail, there was a list which was quite ready for that election, and Philippe Poutou betrayed his comrade in a way, because he got in discussion with Unsubmitted France that the majority of the activists of the NPA, not just in Bordeaux Commune, but in the whole agglomeration of Bordeaux, the big town of Bordeaux, if you want, not just the inner city, they were in majority against. But because Philippe Poutou got these discussions with those people of the left, he provoked another vote just for the activists of the NPA inside the inner city of Bordeaux, the place where the election will be, and he got the majority on that vote with the help of the CCR. I mean, I don't know, you tell
Another leftist organization.
yeah, I don't know you call them, but and they are very at a national scale. They are like that, each one against the other, and on that way they were according themselves to do that opportunistic campaign. But the fact is that it may give something like a good score and something like projector light on Philippe Poutou, and also on the necessity for the whole left to get together to confront, to face Macron. And for us, it's not. It's a bit, yeah, it's not so good news.